basic Automatron, which will be out, and there won't be any delays for. So what I'm going to be talking about are definitely going to be advantageous to you in terms of fighting weapons and gear you'd like to have on your character at the time when you get ready to face him and his arm. So let's go ahead and get that started without any further ado. Now, I've had a couple of people email me and also send me messages asking what level what level should you be, sorry, when facing the machinist. And well, you definitely don't want to be a low level because low level would indicate limited resources. Limited resources would indicate lack of efficiency in terms of being able to, face him. Because once you face the robots, you eventually are going to have to face him. And in case some of you don't know, the machinist is actually from Fallout 3. There was a mission that your character in Fallout 3 had to do where he went to a town, and the mayor of this town, I believe he was the mayor or just the guy running the town. It's been so long since I've played it. So basically, he asks you to stop these two guys who are destroying the town by fighting each other. One was called the Machinist, the other one was called the Antagonizer. One wore an ant costume, and obviously he was a ruler of ants, and the other one, controlled robots. Okay, so as the story goes, your character gave both of them a choice. What I did was I killed the antagonizer and I gave the machinist the option of dying or basically taken off into the wasteland, never to be seen again. So he basically took off. You never heard from him again, and that's where the Automatron DLC picks up. So basically, it's the machinist coming back and basically wreaking havoc on the wasteland that basically told him to take a hike. So he's coming back in full force with his machines. So, as you've already known by playing the game, whichever level you are, there's different types of robots that you can come across. Okay, there's, but they're numerous enough in terms of quantity. Okay, so you have your assaultrons, you have your protectrons, you have your sentry bots. The list goes on and on. So how do you know what you're going to be dealing with? How do you know how to deal with the robots? Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to need. Now let's see what I have on my character in terms of gear. Let's take a look at my character. Now I'm going to completely restructure this character. But I was trying new stuff on him, so that's why it looks kind of weird. But anyway, let's go underneath the armor. And what he has on is army fatigues. And those army fatigues are lined with ballistic weave, which, if you guys don't already know, the ballistic weave is a material that you can put on your basic clothing, not armor, but your basic clothing. And what that ballistic weave allows your clothing to do is it increases your overall damage resistance. So if you look here, if you look at my military fatigues, you see where it says DMG resist. My resistance is 110, and the little lightning bolt symbol is your energy resistance. So my energy resistance is slightly higher than my overall damage resistance. They're both good because they're over 100, and that's just your basic, clothing. So that's really good right there. And then with your other armor, that makes a difference in terms of how well it protects you on the outside. Now with my armor, I don't have all of the armor on because you don't need it, but I have a few pieces of legendary armor or gear called chameleon armor. And basically what the chameleon armor does, it allows your character to become transparent or translucent, however you want to look at it, or invisible, however you want to say it. and basically he becomes invisible to the enemy. Now, if you're a stealthy character and you invest into the stealth perk, then your character is not going to make a whole lot of noise and they're not going to be able to sense them. Okay, that's one way of sneaking on robots. If you don't have any sort of chameleon armor on and you don't have the ability to cloak your character, then I highly suggest you put perk points into the stealth ability to give you the opportunity to basically sneak past the enemy without them knowing it. With the cloak armor, it helps out a lot more. It makes your character that much more undetectable. Okay, and each type of armor piece that you put on your character is going to add to your character's overall ability or damage resistance. So if you look at the very bottom of the Pit Boy, you can see that my overall damage resistance is 240. It can go higher depending on what you use, but you know, my character's pretty well off like this. And then if you look at the energy resistance, he has a resistance of 228, which is pretty good. So if you have the rad resistance perk, that also contributes to it. My radiation resistance is 25. Um, you know, I don't really have to worry about that. My character is really not affected by radiation because of the perk choices that I've made. So that's the gear. The helmet, like I said, I was just trying it on. I wasn't really using that as a primary means of supporting my character's head, but um, that's just something that I was putting on my character. And you can see, if I can get back here, you can see from looking at my character what the gear that he has on looks like. And I like the chameleon armor because it means I don't have to use any sort of device that I would have to carry on me, to make my character invisible, namely the stealth boy. If you don't know, the stealth boys are pretty weighty. They add weight to your character, so I try to reduce my weight as much as possible. I have the Lone Wanderer perk. So the Lone Wanderer perk, somebody just went into my house. Are you kidding me? You rude bastards. Anyway,
You can fix just about
my
anything.
character has the I
Guns,
use the Lone Wanderer
computers,
perk with my
people.
character. So
Just
what it
gotta have
does
the
is
right
it allows my
tools.
character to increase his carry weight and also his damage resistance. And I'm gonna get it. So let's go back into my inventory here and let's look at the weapons. Okay, now I have this weapon called, well, that's the name I gave it, Dragon's Fire. But if you look at this weapon here, this weapon has bullet exploding damage on impact, which causes 15 points of area of effect damage. Because this is a sniper rifle, I converted it into a 50 caliber sniper rifle with long range recon scope. And with the recon scope, what I can basically do is see the enemy through the scope and I can target the enemy so I'll know exactly where all of their movements are. And that's what that scope does. And I'm not really concerned about, you know, silencing the weapon because when you put the silencer on there, it reduces the damage of the weapon. So I chose to just put the compensator on there because I just want to maximize velocity and I want to maximize damage on impact. Okay, so that's just one weapon right there. All right, and then I have this bad boy, which is probably my all-time favorite. Of course, this is the Gauss rifle, and this is the heavily modded Gauss rifle. And you can see the damage is 268, and because it shoots high velocity um, electromagnetic projectiles, it's basically, you know, a robot killer. It can take a robot down really quick. Against synths, this gun is devastating. So robots are basically made of the same thing. The only difference is their armor plating is much thicker. So this type of weapon is definitely one you want to keep on your character. I highly recommend that. Okay, let's see what else here. And of course, you have your basic high fire assault weapon. Let's see. I'm trying to show you guys one. Let's see. And this is one of my favorites here. Also, a gun that does bullet exploding damage for 15 points of area of effect. Okay, that's that one there. And of course, you got your laser weapon that also is very effective against enemies, or robot enemies, I should say. So this is a really good weapon to have. Just got your basic mods on it. Nothing important, nothing special. Just enough to, do enough damage to them. All right. And although this is specifically designed to work against Murlocs and bugs, obviously being a rocket launcher, it's definitely capable of adding damage to a robot. So you want to be able to have quite a bit of a armament on you, especially if you're doing the lone wanderer. It's okay to have a companion with you, but yeah, I prefer to, go solo. So that's what I'm going to do first time around. Now, because of updates that they've made to the game, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you have Fallout, if you go to the Fallout app page and you press options, you go to where it says check update or go to update history, and then you scroll down and you look at some of the previous patch updates. One of the problems with grenades was that they didn't do the type of damage that they were supposed to do. So what Bethesda did was they released patches that basically fixed that ramification, where grenades were doing like maybe 230 damage. They weren't doing the exact damage that they were supposed to. So now with your explosives expert perk, now your grenades do the amount of damage that they're supposed to do. So if you look at the damage of my fragmentation grenade, they do 346 damage. Okay. And that's also a good thing that they did, because you're going to be facing some pretty tough robots, and you want to be able to dwindle their health down, especially if you're doing survival mode. So I definitely recommend that. And this bad boy here, which I happily named Goliath, this is the bad boy of the bunch. This is the Gatling laser gun. And if you haven't already noticed, it uses power cores, and you can see it right there. Uses power cores, so definitely be aware of that. So if you haven't you know boosted up your power core shipment, I would definitely not recommend using that weapon. Okay. And obviously for backup, you have your Fat Man, which I don't know any person that has played Fallout 4 or any Fallout game does not keep one of these on them at all times. So I'll get into the perks that'll help you be able to carry heavy weapons like this. So don't worry, I'm just basically showing you weapons that you'd probably want to carry on you if you had the inventory weight to do so. And what I have here, okay, this is a I call this a Mad Max weapon, but anyway, this is a quad night vision missile launcher, so you can launch you can launch 4 missiles at one time. Let me slow down here because I think I'm speaking too fast. You can launch 4 missiles at one time. Well, not at the same time, but in consecutive order. Okay, so that's what this one allows you to do. And depending on how you set it up, you could also have it set up to, become more accurate and have a better range to hitting the target. Alright, so moving on. Plasma mines. The most important thing you want to have you in terms of fighting the robots is pulse grenades and pulse mines. If you have the ability to make these and you have the resources to build these, build as many as possible. Pulse grenades, pulse mines, plasma mines, they all work very well against the robot. So any weapon that does energy damage, any weapon such as, like I said, the pulse grenade, pulse mines, keep those on you. Those are very important. Now, the last important thing is if you come across legendary weapons that does more damage against robots, put them in your inventory because they do more damage against that particular enemy. I have just about every type of weapon you could think of that does damage against robots, but I kind of like the long range weapon, and I have two in my inventory. This one I specifically use against the robots, especially with Assaultrons, because if you're playing on survivor mode and you attack an Assaultron, and let's say you don't have a powerful enough weapon to either stop them or slow them down, then they're going to advance on you very quickly. And on survival mode, they're pretty tough bitches. Excuse my language, but they're pretty tough to take down. So keep that in mind when fighting, the weapons. The robots. You don't know if you're going to face Assaultrons. You could face a combination of Assaultron and Sentry Bot and Mr. Gutsy, whatever you think you're going to face. So you want to have something that's going to do damage against robots, regardless of what it's made out of, regardless of what parts is connected to it. Fire causing damage weapons, energy weapons, high impact energy weapons such as the Gauss rifle are important. Pulse grenades, pulse mines, plasma mines, fragmentation grenades in general. Okay, those are going to be your best friends. Alright. Well, let's take a look at that process too. Okay, so here I have my chemistry crafting station. And right here for your grenades, you can see what you would need to craft those items. And this is the main reason why I did this video, because to be able to craft multiple quantities of these items here, you have to have the materials that you see in the requirement section. Now there's a very easy way to do it without having to go from place to place looking for shipments or trying to find glitches or anything like that. So just pay very close attention to what I'm saying and what I'm going to be showing you. So if you look to the very far right, you can see what you would need to be able to create these grenades. So obviously you need the rank 3 of the demolition expert perk, and you need rank 2 of the science perk. So if you're going to be making grenades, definitely invest into those two if you haven't. If you started but didn't finish, invest into them all the way, because it opens up all the grenades for you. Alright, and you definitely have to have rank 3 of the demolition expert in order to be able to use the pulse grenade. The pulse grenade and the pulse mines are going to be your best friends against the robots. Okay, you can buy them, but they're quite expensive. So if you look at the materials right here, if you look at the materials where it says requires, I don't have enough materials in terms of adhesives. So I'm going to show you how you can make adhesives, which is what you need to be able to make practically everything in the game. And it's real simple to do it. Adhesives is the hardest thing to come across. Alright? So when you're out there, in a wasteland exploring and stuff, and you're looking for resources and materials, obviously the duct tapes and, anything that, like a lamp or something would use adhesives or glue. Those are the things that you want to make sure you keep in your inventory. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to create adhesives if you don't already know how to do it. So if you look back here, this is my garden, and I have specific vegetables and fruit growing for a reason. So here are my potato plants, which don't seem to be growing. Oh, it's because I've already picked them. Okay, but anyway, so you get you some potatoes, some mud fruit, and you want to grab you some. Where is it? You want to grab you some corn.
At least it's not raining.
All right. So potato fruit, corn, or potatoes, corn, and mud fruit. Grab as many of that as you can. And if you're building settlements, make these your three primary sources of food because they together create adhesives. And when you're building stuff, a lot of people get frustrated because they say, well, I don't have enough adhesives. Where do I go to find this stuff? Well, you can't actually find adhesives by itself. You basically have to break down components to get it. Or the simplest way to make it is to have mud fruit, potato plants, and corn stalks. Okay? And when all that stuff grows, you pick it, sleep for 24 hours, come back to your garden, pick it all over again. And when you pick the corn, when it says harvest, what it does is there's three ears of corn that grows on a plant. I think it's either three or four. What it does is it removes all of that. So however many corn stalks you have, it's going to remove 3 or 4 corn from each one. And you take as much mud fruit as you can from all of your mud fruit trees and your potato plants as well. Okay, so you can see I have many mud fruit, a few potato plants, and only a few corn. Okay, now I do have other settlements that have quite a bit more than that, so I can always go around, but it's just to give you an example of what I'm referring to. So let's do this. I don't think I have any on me, so we're gonna close my door because rude people like to come into my house. Okay, we're gonna sleep. Let's just say 24 hours. We'll sleep 24 hours. And this is what you'd want to do if you go to your fruit plants or your vegetable plants and you say, hey, nothing's growing, I can't pick anything. Well, what happens is once you pick it the first time, you have to give it the opportunity to regrow, and it will regrow. So what you do is you either go to another settlement or you go do a mission or something, and then you fast travel back to Sanctuary or whatever is your base of operations. Either that or you just go and sleep for 24 hours. Okay, and then once you do that, you go back. Close my door here. You go back. You know, every time I walk, I just got to say this. Every time I walk out of my front door and I'm walking out, it looks like a bunch of people standing here waiting to just kick my ass. I mean, does it not look like that to anybody? When I come out of the door, I just see all these power armors just standing there, and it looks like a bunch of people just waiting to just kick my ass. Anyway, so let's go do this. Alright, so did I not wait longer? Okay, so I guess I didn't sleep longer. I've just been picking it left and right. So anyway, we'll get to that later. Let me see if I can do it. So you go to your little cook station. Let me exit out of here. Alright, it's a very good idea to have one of these in every one of your settlements. Okay, put it near your chem station. That way you can go from one to the other when you're making stuff. Even if you, or better yet, put it near your armor station and your weapon station. That way when you make your adhesives, you can go directly over to your armor station, your weapon station, and you can just, you know, take the adhesives that you've created and quickly apply them to the weapon mods that you're trying to make or whatever the case may be. Okay, so a cook station is very important to have in your community. So what I'm missing is corn. I have everything else but no corn. Alright, so let's do this. This video is not going to be long. I'm going to get into the perks, but before I do that, let's go to Nordhagen Beach. Now this is my community that I have plenty of the necessary fruit I need to create adhesives. So basically through this video you're going to see how easy it is to make adhesives and what necessary steps you need to take. If you're just putting all kind of random vegetables in your garden, in your settlement, I recommend against that. Okay? Mud fruit generates 1 point. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're trying to get your benevolent leader trophy, you want to put the mud fruit because it's going to generate the most happiness from your settlers. Okay? Everything else besides mud fruit gives you a half a point. A half a point does not do you any good. Okay? So definitely keep that in mind when you're building settlements. Put mud fruit in your community. I definitely recommend putting mud fruit. Anything else is basically going to take longer for your community to gain its 100% happiness. Alright, so I'm just taking extra here. Alright, so I should have, yep, I have a cook station right there. See? Right there. Let's see, did I get all the potato fruit? Yep, I did. Let me snatch a couple more there. Alright, so once you get enough of the resources you need, you're going to make some adhesives. So you come here to the cook station and you go to where it says utility. Now you see where it says vegetable starch? Don't be afraid. That vegetable starch is going to become adhesive. So you take whatever amount of resources you have. I have five potato fruit. You know what? No, we're gonna go to another community that I have that has more. Alright, so let's go to Warwick Homestead. I think I should have more there. At all of your communities, it would be a good idea to have the necessary fruits and vegetables that you're going to need to create the adhesives, or at least the basic materials for adhesives. The adhesives, I would definitely say build up leading up to you playing the add-on DLC for the first time, and also too just throughout your gameplay. So that's definitely important to think about, you know, if you're going to play the DLC. Definitely keep that in mind. Let's go over here to my garden. Now you can see here from this garden, you can see that I have plenty of what you need to basically make as much adhesives as possible. So I'm just going to snatch up
growing well.
all of this potato fruit. Yep, I'm snatching all of it. It's going to regrow back, so I'm not worried about it. So you guys can see that I have plenty of what is needed to build or create adhesives. Alright, so I'm taking all of it. Don't worry, because as long as they're planted here, your community will still have food. And apparently I just recently picked corn, so that hasn't grown back yet. Alright, and here again you can see where my cook station is. I have one at every community. Now you don't see my workstations, but check it out. Let's go right here. See right there? There they go there. I should put it over there. Yeah, that's what I should do. How about we do that? Let's move it. Let's put it near these two. Put it about right. Let's put it. Let's put it right there. All right. All right. So come. Oh wait a minute. Down there. All right, so you go in here and you go to your utility. Now I have plenty, so I can basically make more adhesives. All right, so I'm gonna make as much as my ingredients allow me to make. All right, so now I have plenty, and even though I didn't have that much corn to be able to make as much as I wanted to, but here's the interesting thing: when you go into your, let's do it right here. When you go into your workbench, whatever that may be. Let's see, do I have a weapon that I can upgrade or take a look at? Let's see. Hmm. Stand charging barrels. Okay. Reflex sight. Oh, none. Wait, what? Oh no, it's already on there. I can't do that one. Let's get a weapon that I can. Let's see. Improve sniping barrel. Full stock. Nope, don't like that one. Beam focuser. Well, let's do this. Okay, let's look at this. So depending on what beam emitter that I'm going to use, you can see how much adhesive I have. I have 63 adhesive. So the more material you have to make vegetable starch, the more it's going to allow you to make adhesives. Okay? So now you know what you need to be able to create the adhesives. So the more you find, the more adhesives you're going to have. All right, so let's head back to Sanctuary. Okay, here we go. So adhesives are going to be your best friend. Invest into mud fruit, corn, and potato plants. Plant as much of that as you can. Let that be the three main things that you grow. Okay? And then once you start harvesting it, just keep saving it. Just keep saving it. Because once you start to get those materials you need for your mods, for the weapon upgrades and stuff like that, assuming you have the necessary perks, and that's what I'm going to get into now when I get back to Sanctuary. That's going to be the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and that should wrap up this video in terms of being ready for the Automatron DLC that's coming out. Alright, so oops, let's do that. Let's go to, let's go to the perks. Alright, so there are a few perks you want to make sure you have, in terms of fighting the robots or just enemies in general. Okay, so your gun nut is one. Okay, definitely medic if you're going to be out there doing a lot of solo missions and you're doing a lone wanderer. You want to make sure when you use a stim pack, it generates your health as quickly as possible. The next thing too, in your lone wanderer perk, if you look at the very first one, it basically allows you to take 15% less damage and your carry weight is increased by 50. The next level, you take 30% less damage and your carry weight is increased by 100. Okay, and the last of that perk, when adventuring without a companion, you do 25% more damage. Okay, now when it says you do 25% more damage, that's whatever that adds to your overall damage for whatever type of weapon you're using, whether it's melee, handgun, pistol, assault rifle, sniper rifle, whatever it may be. Okay, and then there's your demolition expert perk. All right, you have your rad resistant perk, which I didn't invest into that because I invested into the adamantium skeleton, and you could see from here Your skeleton has been infused with indestructible metal, reducing limb damage. Limb damage is reduced by 60, and of course the final one, it completely eliminates limb damage, and that's the perk that I have there. I have the nuclear physicist perk, which basically gives your radiation weapons 50% more damage, and your fusion cores last an extra 25% longer. So if you're doing power armor, that definitely contributes. Radiation weapons now do double, and fusion cores last an extra 50% longer. So again, if you're still doing power armor, that's definitely the way for you to go. It's the perk that I choose because every now and then I get into power armor and I just want to feel indestructible. Okay, and here is your robotics expert perk. If now coming to realize what the new DLC is about, and a lot of people haven't invested into that perk. If you have points that you have available, invest them into that perk, okay? Because it's definitely going to make a difference for you. And Bethesda put out a patch that fixes that perk, so it's definitely going to be important to have that, okay, and have it at every level. All right. So when the machinist sends out those robots, if you are able to grab a hold of that robot and reprogram it, you can actually turn that robot against the machinist. So that's why it's important to have the robotics expert perk. But the main perk that I recommend everybody get starting out, and even leading up to playing the DLC, if you haven't already started playing it, is the Scrapper perk. Okay, this is going to be your best friend starting off the game. This perk is probably your most important perk out of any, and let me explain why. The first level of this perk, it allows you to create screws, aluminum, and copper, and scrapping weapons and armor. Okay, let's just focus on the screws, aluminum, and copper. Now, obviously, if you don't already know, you don't need copper wire anymore to run wire to your components. At least this is what Bethesda said. Okay, so you don't need wire for that, but you still need wire for just about everything else, like you do adhesives. So, starting out or being at that point in the game where you're going out and you're buying all this stuff, listen, let me tell you, I don't buy any of these materials. I break them down, and I'm gonna show you how you break them down. So the screws, aluminum, and copper, that's just one part of the scrapper perk. The second level of the perk, it gets you the circuitry, nuclear material, and fiber optics when scrapping weapons and armor. Okay, now if she's here, I'm gonna show you. Okay, yep, she's here. Okay, you see this lady right here? Let me stop her.
Back again?
Okay, if this lady comes to your sanctuary settlement, let's go into her inventory and see what she has in terms of what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go to her junk. Let me see, is it in junk? Yep, it is. Let me show you. Okay, you see her shipment of circuitry. For me, it only costs $750 because of certain perks that I have, and having a high charisma and everything. But for anyone that doesn't have a high charisma, or for anyone that does not have certain perks, that price will be a lot higher. Now look at how much I'm paying for the circuitry. Okay, she also has screws. See how much I'm paying for the screws, oil, all of that, asbestos, all of that. This is what I would pay if I had no other choice but to buy it from her. But I do have a choice, and I don't have to buy it from her, and I'm going to show you how you can do it without ever spending a single cap. So take a look here. I'm going to go into my weapons bench, and I'm going to find a basic weapon. Oops, let's go back here. Let's see. Alright, let's do this. Let's scrap one of those. Assault rifle. Let's scrap one of those. Let's see. Automatic Institute pistol. Let's scrap one of those. Laser pistol. Scrap one of those. Automatic plasma rifle. And let's find an advanced weapon. Let's see. One that I can, let's see, here we go. Focused agitated laser pistol, laser rifle. Let's do one of these. Okay, let's see. Focused overcharged Gatling laser. No, let's see. Gauss rifle. I have 10. You know what? I'm going to break down one Gauss rifle just so you guys can see. Alright. So, let's take a look in my junk. Alright. You can see the only thing that I have in my junk is vegetable starch. I don't have any components that I showed you from the lady that sells the components or the materials. So you can see that I don't have anything in my junk. Okay, this is not a glitch. This is not a trick. This is not farming. This is just basically using your perks for what they were designed for. Okay, so there's nothing in my junk. So now follow along. And you come here, you go to craft, and you find the items that you took out of your inventory, right? So I'm gonna scrap this auto pistol, and I want you to look very closely at the materials you're gonna get from that weapon when you scrap it. So I'm gonna hit square, and you see I'm getting 7 steel, 2 screws, and gears. Alright, so we're gonna scrap that. Let's go to the next weapon. Okay, here we go. We have an automatic rifle, an assault rifle, sorry. So I'm going to scrap that, and I want you to pay close attention to the materials that I get from it. Okay, so we get a spring, we get 6 screws, and we get 13 steel. Okay, you could also use this same steel, which I'm sure you guys already know. You could also use that same steel for when you're building a structure. So you're basically putting back what you've already used. Alright, so let's scrap this Institute pistol. Okay, look at what I'm getting now. There's some more screws. So each weapon that I scrapped prior to this one, I got screws, and here are 2 more screws. So now I'm getting plastic, I'm getting crystal, I'm getting circuitry, fiber optics, and gears. This is why when you kill an enemy, you take everything off of them. Even if you feel you don't want it, you take everything off, because everything that they have on them can be broken down into materials. I've seen a lot of videos where guys only take the caps off of enemies. They don't take the weapons, and I cringe, because it's like, dude, do you guys realize you guys are just passing up materials? Some people are fine with just buying what they need from vendors. That's fine, because maybe they do glitches. I don't do a glitch, and I'm showing people how not to have to do a glitch. So you can see from breaking down this weapon, you're getting all of these materials. Alright, so as the weapon becomes more advanced, you get more advanced components from it. So now watch this. Okay, plastic, screws, circuitry, crystal, fiber optics, and gears. All of this is possible through the scrapper perk. This is why I'm saying those 2 perks, or the scrapper perk and the 2 levels of that perk, are very important if you want to be able to obtain those materials without having to buy them. Okay, so now here's a focused agitated laser rifle. This is what you would consider an advanced weapon. Okay, so I'm going to break this down and look at all the materials that I'm going to get from it. Okay, when I showed you in the earlier part of the video about the scrapper perk, when I showed you the scrapper perk, it told you that if you break down weapons, you can get nuclear material, circuitry, fiber optics, and everything else you need for, you know, turrets, any advanced weapon you want to make. So you can see from looking at this, you're getting those materials. So you can see that those perks actually do work. So if you've never considered it, or you've overlooked it, or just never really looked at it really good, you are overlooking your primary resource for materials that you've probably been buying up to this point. So, you know, take advantage of those perks. You know, you may not want to put points into them, but if you put points into them, you'll level up quicker. There's no cap limit. You know what I mean? So you can go past even the level that I am now. So, invest into it. If you're at level 25, you're at level 35, you're at level 45, invest into it. You're not going to miss those points. They're going to be very beneficial to you. Okay? So, the more advanced the weapon is, the more parts and materials you're going to get from it. So, I'm getting fiber optic, fiberglass, glass, circuitry, screws, crystal, nuclear materials, silver, plastic. All right? Now, I'm going to break down the gauze rifle. Again, look at the materials that I'm getting from it. Because I have so many of them, I can break this weapon down. I won't be affected by not having it. So, look at what I'm getting. Aluminum, screws, circuitry, spring, wood, steel. Okay? You're not going to get the same exact materials for every weapon, but you're going to get a multitude of materials from all the weapons that you scrap. Okay? And let's see, anything else? Was there anything else? Don't think that was it. Okay, so let's exit out of there. Now, before I show you my junk section again in my characters inventory, this is not my community's workbench. This is my characters inventory. And you can see in the upper right corner, upper left corner, all the materials that's being added. But before I do that, you go over here to your armor workbench and you do the same exact thing. You break down all of the stuff that you take off of enemies, and you will get the components that you need for other stuff. So don't hesitate to pick up everything that you see. Don't kill an enemy and just take certain things off of him. Take everything off of him. Everything. Pick up everything you find. You're getting asinine amount of resources from everything you pick up. you know and one last thing that I wanted to add in terms of perks: the scrapper perk in the beginning is the most important one you want to invest into. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. The scrapper perk and this guy here, the strong back perk. Okay, starting off, you gain 25% carry weight, then 50% carry weight, and then when you're over encumbered, you use action points, which gives you less to use in VATs. But once you level this perk up to the final one, when you're over encumbered and you can't walk or run, you can fast travel with loads of stuff on you. So you can basically carry an infinite amount of stuff and not have to worry about being slowed down. You can just fast travel to your closest community and dump everything off. Just keep dumping stuff. Go back, find more stuff. So that perk is very important, along with the scrapper perk. Those are your two most important perks starting off. And if you have points, invest into those two early on. Okay? And those are going to be your best friends. Okay, now let's see. Last thing that I wanted to show was my junk. So as I showed in my earlier part of the video, I didn't have anything in my junk but vegetable starch. So now you can see from the advanced weapons and the basic weapons that I broke down that I now have all these materials that you would normally go to a shop in Diamond City, or you would go to a vendor who charges crazy prices for this stuff. I basically broke down weapons and got all of this stuff for free. I didn't use any glitches. I didn't use any tricks. I didn't use, any cheats or anything like that. I basically just used what the perks allowed me to do. I just broke down advanced weapons, basic weapons, enemy gear, and it gave me all of this material right here. And so, again, if you were to go to a vendor, they would basically charge you an arm and leg for all this stuff. So everything that you see right here in my junk section, from the fiber optics, the nuclear material, plastic, screws, circuitry, all of this stuff is used to make advanced weapons for your character. So, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, let's go here to the workbench and let's dump all of that stuff that I just created. And I'm going to give you an example of why it's important to invest into the scrapper perk and why it benefits you to have it early on. Okay, let's put all that in there. Alright, so now let's say hypothetically I want to make a heavy laser turret. So let's go into the workshop editor. Alright, and let's go to turrets. Alright, now let's go to the heavy laser turret. Now look at what it says to build with. What do you need to build that with? You need crystal, you need aluminum, you need circuitry, screws, fiber optic, gear, nuclear material, and steel. By me having the scrapper perk and breaking down the weapons that I take off of enemies, which of course again you get for free, by breaking those weapons down, I just got all of this material. And you can see from my inventory that I have plenty of it. I have plenty of it because this is what I've been doing since I started playing the game. Now, I didn't learn this by starting off at first. I learned this by making mistakes, by deleting save accounts and redoing my character because I didn't understand what I was doing at first. So by looking at this section, you can see that I have plenty of the materials needed to build as many of these as I want. Okay, and you can just go down the list and see all the stuff that you need to build it. When you destroy or break down advanced weapons, most of this stuff is going to come from those weapons. And if you don't have enough of something, then when you kill enemies, take those advanced weapons, break them down, get those parts, and just keep building up. And that's how you're going to do it. So with basically any of these weapons that require power, that's what you're going to need to build them. The basic turrets, you're going to need steel, circuitry, gear, and oil. Okay, so it's very easy to get all of those things. Anything that you would buy from a vendor, you can find it in the wasteland. If you don't have it and you're buying it, just don't develop that mentality of not wanting to go look for it. Go search for it, because if you're like me and you want to save your caps for, say, like your shops, then don't waste your money buying stuff. Go out there and find the stuff. Kill the enemies. You'll find it in enemy strongholds. Everywhere you go, any enemy you face, you're gonna find that stuff. Okay, so without further ado, that's the end of that video. That's the Automatron 101. Basically preparing for the Machinist, which you're going to be facing when you play the DLC. Let me get out of here. Alright, in terms of power armor, it's not necessary to use power armor, but if you do use power armor, make sure whatever level of power armor you use, from either XO1, T60, or T51, make sure it's completely leveled to the max. So if it goes to level 5, get it to level 5, put whatever perks on it you're going to put on it, and just be ready. That's the best information that I could offer, and hopefully anyone watching the video will find it useful. And thank you for watching, and I appreciate it. Take care.